Recording.
Set to go.
Meeting to order. 7:20. Thank you, Lester. Yeah, I can do it. Agenda.
Yeah, so
So, May 9th, meeting minutes. Do you have any meeting minutes?
Yes, this thing.
Because what
We did, I do our out.
and I've got some notes, but I never had to put them into. We did have, let's see, we had mostly discussion, and we had Bill discuss the flood rate, not flood rate, but the flood insurance. Oh, check the flood insurance rate map,
we have discussion on the floodplain, the map update for that,
you know,
and updated on the actual process for the flood.
yeah, the one thing he mentioned was coming up. The FEMA reimagining in spring of 2026. Yeah, but fall 2026, we need to have new maps finalized and notify all landowners and floodways and ready. The rates insurance. Yeah, and keep for grandfather. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think what you were saying was that people should be notified this is going to happen in the case. Because if they don't have insurance when it changes, then they won't be able to get the insurance.
Yeah.
At a decent rate. Yeah, it's really important that so that there should be an announcement at that time.
Really important that when they come to request, any comments on the accuracy of the map, that, the residents come forth and talk about it, because if they don't, then what's there will be cast into very difficult change, regulation.
Yeah, my notes, 2024 starts to become important. And then if you have lots of changes need to be grandfathered in, or they will face significant insurance rates increase. And throwaway was that these maps are really maps for insurance rates.
Yeah.
So do we want to? That's on our timeline moving forward, right? For that, we can do our minutes anytime, we can do the minutes for that meeting and this meeting together. Correct,
Yeah,
and then to the next meeting for rules.
you could, the thing that you're missing, of course, is the statutory deadline of having meeting minutes publicly available 4 or 5 days after the meeting is held. So we won't, but
Yeah. And then the only other takeaway on that meeting was, we did have a motion, Ron and Eric, to invite Wyndham Foundation representative to be involved with discussion of the environmental on the wastewater engineering study, which is here tonight. Hope that process.
How do we make sure that we don't forget to pick up the issue on the floodplain maps and their possible effect on insurance rates? We're supposed to face that sometime next year. By sometime next year, I'm going to pull the button. We're supposed to do that. Is there somewhere there's a new thing? So that it will pop out and say, hey.
Yeah, and then back to the timeline, I was hoping for to have reminders of dates as we move along each year and heading toward the town plan revision.
Well, looks like it might be our first, then we have to make sure we do it in time.
Yeah. All right, with that said, meeting minutes approval, we'll move into this meeting minutes. Anything else in the previous meeting? The minutes?
Only,
There's mostly discussion, regarding this water update. We talked about the open space amendment in Chester, which was a moot point. And we mentioned the eight being the Wyndham Regional Commission, for final update, which they'll give us an update that night. And there's also a link for that. Okay. On to this agenda, wastewater update and options. Discussion, and then Bob Donald from Wyndham Foundation with us tonight. Help further along that discussion. First of all, did anyone attend when last week's meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was? Yeah, what was that?
I was gonna wait to hear more, but I'll tell you, I was a little surprised when the town bond talked about non-state was working so far. And the big pitch was for another $30,000, so they could do this, finish up what they needed to get that first phase or that phase that we're looking to do. And there really wasn't any discussion, and I didn't feel, honestly, man, I didn't feel it was my place, I was really attending as a visitor. To say anything, but I thought, or I was just someone that imagined that there was going to be some sort of acknowledgement that there would be discussion about looking into alternatives. And again, the only thing I can imagine, which indeed being on Zoom was not 1000% clear, perhaps was, somebody said something along the lines, I didn't see the minutes yet, and maybe I'm conflating two different things here too, that if we go down that path, there's no money. And indeed, the whole point of what they were pitching, and what's the woman from
Aaron.
was really about, we don't have anything right now. Were you there? Were you there too? Or
No, there's a fellow in our maintenance department, Russell Record, who's very interested in the subject, and it keeps me up to date, and he was at that meeting. He wrote me up to date. I won't say his opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I gotta say, I was not particularly, smitten by what, what I was hearing, and I wanted to be open to it, but I really thought there was gonna be some discussion about, hey, look, we're probably not gonna find something else. And it was really sort of like, to me, again, I don't want to be too cynical, was like, there's no one, and there was another woman from from the state was with I have the notes in the building. Basically saying, you're not gonna pay this is not gonna come out of your pocket anyway, the money's there. And I just find it a little, personally, a little, offensive, but nonetheless, though, more importantly was that I didn't see the time bond doing anything particularly different than looking at some other sites that we probably know are not gonna work. That's unfortunately my takeaway.
What did you mean by the money's there?
Whatever was the funding for this additional money for this study is available or can be had with no cost to the town, and the select board approved it.
And these are the folks that said they don't want to make any money available to them for alternatives.
Who's that? The select board or the state? The state, yeah, the state, and yeah.
So is the select board thinking of actually continuing the time bond?
I think that was
The impression I got, seconding.
the impression. It certainly wasn't a question like that, and it certainly didn't seem like, it was more than just a cursory acknowledgement that to date, nothing has come out of this.
Yeah.
And, and I heard Russell, and, I mean, I wasn't sure it was him then, but I gathered it was, pushing about. There aren't other places that, and indeed, I think Russell was involved with some of those alternative sites,
Mhm.
finding out about them. That the plate of possible sites is pretty much exhausted.
Yeah.
And, we concluded here, at least, that this is something that we should accept. And if we're gonna do something, try to find other alternatives, or alternatives that make sense with. And I don't know, I'm really sorry to negotiate, but, alternatively, yeah.
Is it time to think about asking for a joint meeting with the select board? That's all.
I think if the select board doesn't know what we're doing,
Yeah.
and we don't know entirely what the select board is, and there are no minutes for these meetings, which I think is, this is all of us try to participate. I was embarrassed.
Oh, the Zoom meetings with the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
IM is pretty much old school technology. And they don't even think about what we're trying to push for an idea of using biological so-called living machine technology for purifying water. And that at first, about a month and a half ago, Time Bomb was essentially throwing up their hands saying, you have no alternatives. During that meeting, I think I was one of the skunks at the picnic that asked about some kind of drip type of irrigation that would be either surface or slightly subsurface, and wouldn't that get around a lot of the issues that are presented by having in-ground mound system kind of traditional way of disposing of the wastewater. And that generated a little bit of interest in the group, and there was one. I've got a criticism of A&R. They work in silos. They don't communicate. There was one lady there, whose name I can't pronounce. I think she's a Indian or perhaps Polynesian kind of ancestor. That's the complication of the name there. But she is very knowledgeable about ways of working with sewage wastewater disposal, and she said that there was a experimental program that is using drip disposal, that there's in fact not just one, but there are more than one that have been used. And we got the name of one of the companies that has made a name for themselves doing it. He said that because they have some kind of experience with it, and A&R would probably fit within the funding criteria that the others silo with A&R says we have to meet in order to get the grant money. So that headed everybody in the direction, oh, if we can do this, then maybe we can find a site in Grafton that will accept drip disposal. That's why we had the testing on Joe's property and on the upper level of the Holland Mill property. I guess Joe's property was good. I regret that they didn't go up into the woods a little bit, because I think that would be a much better place to put it. Maybe more expensive, but still a better place to put it. And they weren't so happy with the Holland Mill site, but I guess they didn't rule it out completely. So we've got a viable means of getting rid of the water. The thing that, concerned me a little bit that I think we need to look towards perhaps changing the legislative and rulemaking landscape on this, that when I asked about using that same water instead of going into a drip system, using it for crop irrigation. The lady that runs the grants, stuff, the funds things, said, oh, no, you can't do that. I need to dig deeper into that. I think it has to do with the idea that in conventional sewage treatment, the wastewater is not suitable for going out onto crops that improve. However, these living machine systems can and regularly do produce water that's virtually drinking water quality coming out of the river. So maybe there's some room to beat on the legislative and the rulemaking parts of our government to get that as a viable alternative for summertime use of the water. And I think that, because of the way climate is changing, or experiencing extremes in climate, both in terms of too much water and too little water, and croplands are being rendered non-viable out west, and have always produced cheap food for us to eat. I think we're going to be relocalizing agricultural production here, and ability to use water like this to water crops, I think is valuable. So I think there's an ultimate good purpose for us to work towards, to use this wastewater in a way that can be a total recycle.
Well, just wanted to add, where's the foundation in terms of this? From this faith and what it's dealing with and things we talked about it.
Where's the foundation?
Well,
Good question, huh? Good answer. We, agreed to let time bond test at certain stage. By the way, did they ever get back to us at all with one syllable of results of those tests? No. Never ever again. So, they tested out by Meadow and Howland, et cetera. We are a major landowner. Tenant in the village here, so obviously we're concerned with the issue, but I don't know if we have an official solution.
no, I wasn't looking for that, I just. What problems are you facing in terms of just? Your needs to keep the end going and.
We've been testing all the time, pumping all the time. And we have not had issues to date. That doesn't mean that will continue forever. We have some shared water systems, for instance, the market and Power House are the same one. And there's a few other those around in that block. So it does affect us for sure.
It's the same source, it's just different drug, being from the same source.
Yeah, in the last decade, I remember we had to have a new well drilled at Lake House, right close to the street. That's the only well work we have done in my time here. I think June, I know Market had some issues with that. And your relatives, or if it's very involved in that issue.
The backyard down there is tank farm. It's just covered up with dirt.
So obviously we're aware. Heavy congested area.
So this, going on the living machine concept, engineer aquatic environment. AEAE Yes.
Yeah.
Engineered aquatic environment system. So you're basically engineering plant life in these containers that water, wastewater feeds through each tank. Filtering it further and further down the line. And, you know, in the northern climate, you put it in a greenhouse where it can work year round, and then the end result, Eric said, it can, you, very clean water that can either go out into a lesser leach field, if you will, that can be used to get back to the aquifer, or you use it for ag purposes. Trying to find out more information. We contacted a couple of engineering firms that we've found online, and getting mixed or a little result back from them. For the information, Todd Engineering is the one that kind of took over the Living Machine trademark. And I've been back and forth emailing with them, but no real concrete, hello, we'd like to help you. I also reached out to Stone Engineering, is the other engineering firm that we did an RFQ for, request for qualification on planning behind Otter Creek, and we used Stone Engineering, those three. And so I reached back out to Stone, asking this Peter Lazarchuk. And I haven't gotten an email back from him either. I reached out to him asking what he or his firm or team may have with Living Machine concept. I think they're all gonna skate around and knowing that the state isn't behind it, or the funding isn't behind it. It may boil down to pushing the right button somewhere in Montpelier to say, hey, we've got a situation where we need to do a system. You know, they've been built here in Vermont before, there's one in Burlington, one in Sharon, the rest of the area. They're all over the country working, so why should one work here economically? Quote unquote, for the small village, to be a showcase. Different. That could take care of the water in the village. They've also since,
Maybe the chief's plan too.
well, segue to my conversation with Hannah. From Biodyne, she's a pond scientist. Been talking with her the other day about our situation. I mentioned Living Machine. She got all excited, like going off, because I've taken a course down in Florida right this summer on the Living Machine concept. And she's very interested in the concept of how it works. Her work with ponds and knowing that plants filter everything that's out there. She's even interested in coming to talk with us. With some of the information that she has. I want to find out more about the sports that she's taking. Whether she's going down to Florida or she's taking advice, I don't know. But the concept is there, it's been there, it's just why won't the state pick up this as an option?
They're very, very conservative. And I think, as you know, as far as the conventional septic kind of system, New Hampshire was probably 20 years ahead of us as far as the kinds of alternative types of system that they would allow compared to Vermont or an in-ground system. That's, they just don't like to change.
But yet they're doing all kinds of other things to make it change. That's really our next agenda item.
And before we go there, I know it's hard to hear the Zoom meeting you said, but did you say they approved additional funding for Taiwan?
I wouldn't swear to it in court, but I believe that was my understanding that they both, I think they really did. I mean, I believe they certainly did. It was up for discussion, it was about $30,000. And
So I wonder for what, so maybe your point that maybe this commission and the select board do need a joint. meeting, so
There
we
there-
should
there-
look at it.
there was enough of the understanding, I think, previously about this to the select people, the select board. I don't know. The other thing that came out, which also may not make a difference for this either, was it was a discussion that the monies involved for this would not be the responsibility, as we've discussed, of bracketing population entirely, but would be focused on the village. And I believe it's Joe, the chairperson, said something like that, and everyone sort of agreed, because, well, that's gonna be probably too expensive for the small group of households to support. And that itself is gonna be a problem, but it's still not stopping right now the further investigation or whatever. Because it's a fun.
So the further investigation should be something that's, maybe it's hypothetical, this is what could work.
What do you think?
And here it is in the study, it's engineering. And now you go to the state, it's engineering plan, and say, this is what we need. And
Well, I think you're right about that. If this is moving ahead. We generate a specific solution and then we sell it. If it's a state level. Maybe with some helpful politicians. I can't see us working with the state bureaucracy to generate something, it's a particular plan for a solution. It would take them 10 years. The first thing.
They also, they also had that fellow who we had talked as Campany.
Yeah.
Chris Campany, they brought him in as the person we've been discussing as sort of the liaison, a person who would be the point person for the town and all of the for all the vested interest, all the players to be sort of the ombudsman.
so you got an email from Chris, Seth had asked Chris,
Right, correct. Send it back to Cheryl Coughlin and myself. Which is kind of nice, it's like a heads up. Select board is saying, yes, did you know that? And it was, I was like, oh, didn't know that. And the proposal on the table is that someone in the Wyndham Regional Commission would be the grant administrator for this, as opposed to someone in drafting. And I can understand why that would be useful. They're in the mode of doing that kind of thing. I think Morgan could learn and do it without any trouble with herself. So it could be done here. We've had other grants administered by the town administrator. But the other thing, of course, is that the political contacts and regulatory contacts of the Wyndham Regional Commission would be brought in with this, which would work to our advantage. So it's probably a good choice.
I think so. That's the.
For Bob's benefit, in a nutshell, what this living machine technology is all about. It starts off much like a advanced sewage treatment kind of thing, a little bit like is in back of the store down here, where you're going through an anaerobic chamber, which is the norm in everybody's outline septic system, and anaerobic digestion, one tank. Then it flows from that tank into an aerobic tank where oxygen is pumped to it. And a different set of bacteria take over and start chewing on things. And the outflow of that goes into this greenhouse that Matt was talking about, where water flows in a very slow fashion through a great mass of living things,
Well, there's plants in each chamber, there's plants taking out nitrates continuously, even in the first chamber.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, no, there's continuous taking out the nitrates and phosphates, whatever, and then they're mostly the nitrates are the most hazardous, or, it's plants taking care of all of that. It's even eating up any of the bad bacteria that's in there. So each chamber works its way down.
the final discharge, I think, goes through a tank pump. And just polishes the water, take out all protected.
And there's plants in that sample to continually take things out, and when I spoke with Hannah about this. You know, she knew all the plants, and she said that's what nature does, you know, that's how she designs her ponds, she designs her ponds to pick up the nitrates that are getting into the pond. And utilizing. So you're encouraging the plants to grow and look nice and serve the purpose for the pond. So her concept for ponds work the same in this, it's not really a treatment, well, it's a treatment plant, there's no chemicals involved.
Right,
It's all natural, it's just an all natural treatment. Of the waste through the system. And you can view it, you can see it, it's. I know the one in Sharon is beautiful, go and look at it. It's like walking into a greenhouse, you are walking into a greenhouse with lots of plants.
There won't be any little shop.
Stop it. The other thing she mentioned was the catalyst, I mentioned the whey. From the cheese processing. And I'm not sure what works, is it still spraying a little bit out there? Yeah,
For a lot of it.
yeah, so she again, her light bulb went off, she said that'd be a great catalyst. For the system, mentioning what we talked about.
yeah. Lots of
So
water,
this
too.
whole thing should be a really unique system. In a unique town. And again, it's who can engineer it for us, who can say this will work, and here's what it could cost.
What about citing for it? Is it-
Again, you need a location, but we wouldn't need nearly the location which. The rest area is basically a greenhouse plan with this room. So we would need some spot for it, but again, it's all enclosed, and it's all in tanks and. Where that water goes would be the next question that the engineer would have to figure out. And will the state accept it as. You know, disposal and.
Perfect. Which I really like to see. It may take a few years to beat heads up there to change the rules. But in the meanwhile, we can continue to, if Joe's site works, we can use that. All the time.
But still, another expense to get it.
Yeah, and a lot of
Out of the road.
head pressure to push it fair.
And this whole grant thing. It's, I don't wanna say it's a Ponzi scheme, but it is a scheme to, here's the money, here's what you can do, and. It's go around in a circle. And all you come up with is a piece of paper. And nothing's done after $100,000. If I was spending $100,000, you want to see some end result. Not just a piece of paper, with, oh, gee, here's what maybe you can do. So that's, you know, I call it Ponzi scheme, but it's a pretty good racket.
Well, back after the willingness to spend other people's money, even though there's no reason. Nothing you're gonna get out of it.
I mean, I'm a project manager by training, so we don't give them any scope or any requirements they have to meet on a deliverable. Why would we do that?
It was.
Why do you give them any money other than maybe 10-20% without saying, here's what you have to deliver in these states? And if you don't do that, you don't get any money. That's
Yeah,
The scope of Buzz was really very,
big.
very big. I mean, it was, and I'm not a project manager, but I've read enough scopes to feel like this, the.
Consulting companies love this because, you know, they don't have anything they need to deliver.
And this did, I think, have deliverables, but you know, anyway, they didn't meet the timeframes. I mean.
They missed the time, they
yes,
missed the level.
I think it's time for a plug.
I mean, do we pay them anyway?
So we paid them about 60 already, the town paid them supposedly, I think 60.
Yeah.
Right, and then. I don't know.
Well, it's the grant money, and that money, that doesn't,
Yeah.
you don't pay for that.
That's right, it's a
the
project.
project comes to fruition. It just gets,
Free
it
money.
gets absorbed in the construction project later, so
Yeah.
there it is again coming out of our pockets going into the construction project. So it came from us in the beginning and we're gonna pay for it again in the end.
One of the irritations is, when they had their public meeting last fall. They pretty much admitted that there's nothing they can do.
Mhm.
So. Or are they talking about another $30,000?
But, and they said, there's really nothing we can do. But give us another $30,000 and we'll come back.
Yeah,
So Claire tell you there's really nothing about differently.
They asked people to come up with a bunch of alternative sites, we came up, right, you guys came up with the sites. to look
Yeah.
into, and they need the 30 to check the sites, I don't,
We'll type it up for you for $30,000.
Yeah.
right.
Go back to your question about when the foundation might be asked at some point for citing in this living machine.
How important is it for the foundation to quote unquote solve this problem?
Well, I think some people's concern is that the foundation will put the bill for the system. With no vote on the other. But obviously it is a real issue in the village and we're a major tenant in the village, so. Pretty important to stop
Doesn't seem fair that you put the entire bill.
it. No.
It should be there for the benefit of maintaining the facility. And the facility will help me.
So, I mean, the reason we. Offered to have, or agreed to have these test sites done was, I mean, we are a major landowner in town, so. We are part of the issue, so. I think we all understand that, if there ever is a solution found, then. That a site might be on plan beyond that, so.
It could be in the village. Or.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to leach, it just needs to be a facility.
Well, that's the people worried about. Something, anything, no matter what you tell them.
Pumping up is not a big deal. It really isn't. Once you get it in the school system.
I don't see where at the meeting last fall, but. Nothing that was about the village. Yeah. I didn't think one could ever explain, that there's nothing to worry about, there's no danger here. Just the thought about it. I'll throw out one more thing, I want to do that every once in a while, these discussions over the years, we've had at the select board years ago. Are we searching for a solution for a problem that doesn't exist? We've gotten along, this way forever. No catastrophes. I'm just wondering. Just throwing that out to be the,
Well, could you bring up that the tavern was kind of on its third option, and there weren't too many leach field options up there? Wasn't that sure of you from Stan?
Yeah, I think Stan mentioned that a long time ago. Is that true? That
What's this here?
you're out of leach field options.
Well, or that may be made true, most of them are right now. Most of them are back there, so,
And the tanks for the parking lot.
yeah.
Right.
Yes,
I get the grease tank too.
yes, that's right.
So it's a good system, but what happens, down the road, the 10, 20, 30 years down the road or more? And then the other question was, what about when the state comes to us and says, you need to do this? You can't say that, but.
Well, to your point, like, I love that, you gotta say, it, and we've talked about it here, but I mean, again, in my understanding, there are two forks to that. Question, one fork is the catastrophe, and I think the word you use, of contamination. That something with the wells could be contaminated because we don't take care of them. And that I get, and that's for real, perhaps, and that's something that perhaps there's other answers to.
Yeah.
But the other question, which is the development or the growth question, is the more intangible and the harder one for us to all see our way to the other side on together. Right? Is there another fork, another element to it?
So I think you're right, continue to be the devil's advocate. No, the village systems are stuck right now. Okay. So. Why be all that worried about capacity? That's never happened. There's no indication that it's around that. So that's something to parcel out, think through. Then development. I don't see this town being able to be developed. It's just not in the right location. It's, one of the reasons I was asking you like earlier is when you look at the end, it's business model. Is that something that you keep changing over time? Is it market changing and things like that? You see yourself having with that? What would that mean? Is that like me thinking about other possibilities for development? But there's all this excitement of the two new businesses in town. Neither of them are fully. So where's the potential there?
I hear you. And even I mean, if you're saying about the water, the well contamination, there was, is it not productive enough to think that if you had much more frequent septic cleaning that you would avoid that, or you think that's still just putting a Band-Aid on the possibility that it's still something, a flood could really undermine whatever cleaning you do? Is that what happens?
I don't think you have to worry about the flood, I think you have to worry about. Groundwater contamination, which. Quite possibly is already there, but no one has.
I'm sorry, that groundwater contamination because of cracks in the septic and it's just leaching out of the container.
The leach itself is getting down into the aquifer,
Right.
even under a normal, slow working system. And because of the climate, you've got leach fields that are on top of water wells. Leach field.
It was not too long ago that there was a major excavation over on School Street. And the groundwater welled up in that excavation within about 2.5 or 3 feet of the surface of the ground. Didn't go away. What we've got under us is glacial till with a fairly high permeability, so things move pretty easily. And we got high water table. The recipe for cross contamination is very strong, in my opinion.
That said, is that was taking the contaminants laterally across the surface to the river, and then the aquifer that's 200 feet beneath us isn't seeing that yet.
I don't know what's recharging the aquifer.
That's what an engineering firm should be doing. What's the aquifer?
I know we've looked into it pretty extensively with this PFAS contamination. Apparently came out of the elementary school. And the only reason we know that has happened is because we looked for it. I don't know that anybody has done any in-depth analysis of water to see whether cross contamination.
So that's supposed to we're not the leach field. Wax water being dumped in the same. Going into the leach field. And that was finding its way into the water that's coming up 200 feet below. So those are products that are very, very, very.
Yeah, at least they're persistent. I agree with. What Ron is putting forth, that's technically. Devil's advocate arguments, which. Are gonna be very strong. Whenever we approach this from a community buy-in position. If it isn't broken, then fix it. The engineering side of it says. It may not be broken, but we know that there are certain conditions being met. That say it's likely to be broken. And. The other. Part of my. He said that. Whenever something. Goes catastrophically wrong. The whole community. Gets very, very upset. Yeah, so. I would prefer an approach that would, within reason, know what the engineering conditions are for the migration of water, but proactively look for a solution to a problem we know is growing in front of us. And how to pay for it is, it needs to be done equitably. Yeah. It can't be all on the backs of the Woodland Foundation or all on the backs of the people that live in the village. And there should be some buy-in or responsibility from other people in town. Take Lester's two-pronged approach there. We're trying to avoid the ecological or existential kind of catastrophe on the one hand, and on the other, if we make a cure for this problem, we open up the possibilities for options for economic growth within the village. I think we have to address the existential threat and the bonus of having flexibility in what we do economically. I think is a real good motivation.
What is time bonds? Do you call, I don't know, because I wasn't on this, what was the mission? Was the mission to do both, or was it to do the second bond, or did it have an emphasis on what? Again, probably wasn't even put in the papers.
Yeah, I think engineering study to find a solution to the wastewater issue.
It's a technical. Plan.
Yes.
And they were hired to do the work.
So now you advise the select board to. Take the rest of that 30,000 and say, hey, with that 30,000, find out, get us more information, what we could do. Regardless of what the state says we can do.
Well, we don't want to spend on it. Doing that.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't know, you actually, I wasn't sure whether that 30,000, which we would get from the state, would be available to have them do anything like what we want. That's what I got to the question, so
even to investigate other solutions.
I think so. I wouldn't swear to that. That's what I think, that was, and I think we've had that discussion here, that we were concerned that the money was not at all available for any of these other more alternative arrangements.
Well, for such a project to take place.
So I'm just gonna be, I mean,
Yeah, it's project,
Yeah.
but to do the study.
It comes back, I think we should be meeting with the select board, you know. We've had this sort of discussion for about 4 meetings now. So I think it's time to try and figure out where we actually stand ourselves and in terms of. Select board, but I wanted to ask the issue about the aquifer. I never thought about that, but is that something one could find on investigate that issue?
Because
So, you know, if it turns out, you know, we've got to get, you know, not the week, but the select board wants to give them someone else's money. Maybe just direct them to do some specific tasks, you know. That would have to do, you know, broadly speaking with, you know, what the state, okay. But I can't see the state saying no to checking out how safe or not. And then I'm gonna be with a list of other things. So there are some things, when you tell them what to do, I would say.
And that would at least give you some data about what would a good solution be.
You know, for what it's worth, we don't see huge growth at the end.
Yeah.
It's a different business. I am astounded, look back before I was here. And Stephen Marsh, they used to do like 10,000 room nights a year at the end. Now we're like 6. Now there's more wedding business, there's more food and beverage business, but 10,000 people, room nights overnight, there's a lot more people using the toilet facilities than the 6,000, so. But we don't see a huge growth in that, it's a different world.
How long ago was that?
15 years.
Or, you know,
Different travel patterns and. Different generation.
I mean, my kids don't go dance, I mean,
Yeah.
I was their age, if we go in, now that.
Generations when I was younger, aunts and uncles and friends would always come to the end of the weekend, you know, that was the event.
Right.
Now it's, what's the big deal? You know, a wedding's a big deal, and having some fun, but just to go relax in the country center for the weekend is not the norm anymore, I think.
I saw a stat at a town hall this week, that there are 36 Airbnbs in this town. That's
Well,
just mind boggling.
There's another issue, there's the other 4,000 decks.
Yeah,
As part of our capacity,
yeah,
some of them
elsewhere.
on systems that can only maybe maintain 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom. And all of a sudden you've got 8 people in a 1 or a 2 bedroom house. Or a 500 gallon tank, and a 500 gallon tank, and you've got 8 people.
Yeah.
Flushing. And who knows what's going down.
Those are in the building.
Oh, man, you see, right next to Whitegate's, that house?
Yeah.
They're occupied by professional, constantly.
That's the one on 121.
Yeah.
Just
Just goes
does the town know the 36 places that are Airbnbs? And it is indeed, there's probably many
Well,
more
I
that.
think working was the source of it, I mean, someone heard it from her this
we
week.
just go online.
Yeah, I think it's,
I stayed in a lot of them.
You know, talking about development and economics. There's a good chance we're gonna lose our second biggest business in town, which is still probably gonna close down. And that brings in, you know. 15 to 20 employees every day, they're spending some money in town. And that's gonna go. So, you know, we're gonna start off even lower. Although, you know, that school building could be used as a senior citizens hall, you know, instead of just closing up and walking away and it's on the opposite. And that would address some of these items. Anyways, you know, we're facing a loss of economic activity in this town in the near future. And so again, how do you grow? Even assuming it, we start off with time, we'll fight that, it's the motion of growing period, but.
Okay, how do we structure the collaboration with the select board?
How about a motion here that we have our chair contact the chair of the select board and ask for a joint meeting? That. There's no. I move that we request the chair of the planning commission to contact the chair of the select board. To arrange for a joint meeting to discuss the wastewater issue.
I'll second that.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. To this board meeting with select board. Select board. Yeah. Any further discussion?
I think it ought to take place. And perhaps late summer. So that we have a chance to bring in. People that can talk about.
Yeah.
The drip irrigation. Stuff, so that we have that under our belt. Because immediately in a meeting like that, we're gonna be asked, well. What are you talking about? And we're gonna have to. Address it. We can. Do that beforehand. Yeah. Now, even if we have to do it on a non-meeting night to accommodate somebody who can come in.
So did we go to them and they come on?
Well,
They were part of. We're on the very rule, so. We would have to ask, them, you know.
oh, we're talking about our meetings to get educated.
Yeah, right, but once we want to hold a meeting with them,
Probably that
it would have to be on their agenda for.
as a joint meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Since we're still on the same issue, I move that we invite Hannah to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from, originally from Sharon, so she knew the.
That's good.
better. Yeah, she, in fact, she lived in high school when I planted that, she was all excited about it, they did. Their school did a field day up there. And that's what got her really excited about plants and different things, and she was. Excited to know that I was involved with that, so. Very smart, yeah, she's got a, I'm pretty sure she's got a PhD in. Water, water sciences. Not marine biology, but just something down that line.
We can meet her by Zoom.
Yeah, no, it'd be wonderful to have her here, she's just
Yeah.
bundle of energy and a bundle of information and. You feed off her information, she'll mention something and all of a sudden you're like, hold along, you'll answer the question because. You get on the same wavelength, so you know, you get with those people and say, yeah, I think that's it.
Well, is she local?
He's from Manchester now, yeah.
Vermont?
Yeah.
Better next month.
Yeah.
I'll speak with her. I mentioned it just 2 days ago. And I know she just had a little work with her mom today. We're supposed to meet on a project tomorrow, but she can't. So I'll kind of, I'll talk with her.
I'll give her Peter dinner
Yeah.
and lunch or whatever to make it.
I mean, she and both her husband, like her husband, right, want to, they got quite a business, I know he does all of the reservoirs for Massachusetts. They dive in the land and take care of any issue with reservoirs. And from aquatic, basically aquatic plants to what's going on in the environment in the reservoir. So, you know,
Very close operation.
Hmm?
That's a very neat operation.
yeah, they even dive ponds. Yeah.
So we directed you to invite her to the next meeting.
Yep.
Good.
Well, I'll find out more about the course she's taking. With. Florida State. Marine biology. Or the University of Florida, one of the other. Big marine biology.
Probably both.
They certainly got a high water table issue down there.
Hmm. So. There's gonna be a solution for us. And. Or the cost, they say, it's keep going up and up and up, that's. Mind boggling, right through the thing, and why do you have to be. What cost to do this, and, you know, the bridges cost. No, but we're up to that. They won't lose.
Just for the town to put in box culverts is extraordinary. We need more of them. And so we're faced with a climate change issue. We're gonna have water events that are gonna be Irene or more, and they're not gonna be decades in the future. They're just gonna be every few years. And most of our culverts, even though we increase the size of them, Irene, I don't think they're equal to the past. The box culvert is a little bit like a colonial fence that we put in where you fill up two abutments and put a square hole. Cover over it in those days with just big slabs of rock.
Well, actually, it was
Hungry.
a fairly good solution, I think, for some of the stuff years ago, the state, I thought. Just had wooden bridges that just lift up and wash away. Pick them up and bring them back. Put them in place.
There's a lot of merit to doing something like that.
Well, it was actually a serious discussion about 20 years ago, and it got nowhere because the state said. No labor day. Well, you know, I mean,
As long as
there's a simple possibility.
As long as you anchor the bridge reasonably well on each end, so that normal traffic doesn't move it, but floodwater. It should swing, and if you have a cable on one end, it just follows like swing around parallel with the current. Water go by. And come back with a crane. Which is something that probably should be done with the footbridge.
Which one? The one now, the one after you, yeah.
Yeah. You have a cable, a big old monster cable, and with a big anchor in the ground that would. Take one end of it and allow it to swing around and drop in the field. All in that. So wouldn't go downstream. Yep. After the flood goes by, just. Bring it back in place.
Well, here's another question that you may or may not know, but if you can find out for us, the amount of weight that we do, that you can produce, per day. It's not every day, it's just when you're.
They produce about 4 days a week. They produce about 4 days a week. And
Yeah,
amount of what?
amount of weight, gallons per day. Yeah, last meeting's question for
That's easy to find out.
you. Yeah. All right, any further on the wastewater, Bob, any questions, it hopefully help you.
I was interested to listen to this, the living, Mr. Marbury. I mean, I'm no engineer, trust me. But that was an interesting conversation. So I have seen no solution so far, so I know we're still talking, so. I don't know, the rest of your agenda or anything that relates to,
No, I
I
think
think
it's all for you, yeah, you get out early.
Did I have a question about number 6, the Roscoe subdivision? I did get a letter as an butter for that. Is that just a matter of providing that property to do good? Is there any other issues there?
I don't know anything about it, other than I'm gonna find out more on June 22nd.
Oh, okay, okay.
Do you know anything more?
I didn't ask to have that on there.
No, I put it on it just because it's the DRB coming up. I guess we're gonna have one more meeting before that, but, or no, we're not.
No, it's just,
No, it's next week.
Like the same one that we. That's why quickly last time, and it's just taking my property and dividing it into two, is that the same?
I think,
No, that was down at Cape Morris.
well, this one's along the river, right, Cape Canaveral, it's just to the right, 6 acres.
So it's next to you, I didn't even know that.
Well, it's next to the trails, Grafton Trail property. You know, it's right down by Patsy Ellis and Denise Martin, down at Kidder. Just.
Oh, right, got it, okay, yeah, we're going home, yeah,
But that's dividing it into two, isn't it?
Yeah,
it should be just a simple. Subdivision, right? Right,
I think so, yeah.
all right, so I will find out for you the amount of whey we produce. Okay, however. And we will follow what goes on with the subject for sure, great interest.
thank you again.
All right, yeah. It's like, I see it.
Any regional update?
Sure. There's been, as we know, WRC update. Some planning and zoning training going on, I think West Virginia.
So, on the 250, I need another one, but I did the 250, which is
Oh,
really
okay.
interesting. I think I did another one, it was a while back. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, there's one tomorrow, and
there's one coming up very soon. With the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, I think I sent out the notice to you. That's. But here, the LCP produces. Some really good training. And their legal department. When it comes to things like open meeting law and. All kinds of law relative to municipal government, and it's just. Excellent. As long as you're part of the. Town. Sanctioned. Committee, commission. Whatever, and the town is a member. You can call them up and get. Pretty good advice. It's a great service.
What I found as well, like, your point's important that you have to be part of the. Administrative service. Citizen, it's kind of called.
right.
Getting toasty?
So Eric, when is that meeting, and do you think that is something that's pertinent to us committee members, or?
Yeah.
You really, okay.
They haven't paid for your dues.
like what?
In fact, they probably will have to pay, but, since we're, so.
I think Eric has a controller for the unit, do you have that?
Yeah, I turned that on, but I couldn't figure out how to operate it, adjust it. It was being stubborn in the air. I was being super ignorant how it was working. Anyway,
There's just, well, there's
We're
something
not just- we're not just members of the LCT, we're also active members. It's their insurance program. And that's the lower rate for all the training, it's dirt cheap for, yeah. And this committee will out of our budget. Would pay for anybody's expenses.
Yeah, there's tomorrow, planning focus, part one, and then, wait one second, zoning focus. They go to the morning. Of noon time. We talked about housing legislation update, planning commission, legal goals and responsibilities. Um, 27 regulations short term rentals. And the legal responsibility of DRDs and zoning laws. Yeah.
Well, that's, I get increasingly important, it is important.
And basically one use plan. Next one, we're winning regional.
That's something.
Yeah, you're 28. That's in the evening, 6 to 7:30. Might be able to that one. Did all of you get this email?
I don't, I think it's more about. Yeah. Let me see, I'll still think of.
All right, anything else you need to, Eric?
No.
I just want to bring those to our attention. I was staying line up 6 for. That girls for subdivision, want to mention it. And item 5. Another email that we all got, which I got. You all must have done well. In our municipal climate change vulnerability index meeting.
I don't know if I got that, but it certainly had a look at it.
When I put in, is there a town plan impact for us? With regard to that. Or.
So,
Hopefully we know.
they're having a meeting on this, the presentation. on the
Presentation, yeah. I don't know, another hoop to jump through. You know, I know it means a lot to be there. I appreciate that.
Key to developing a way of coping with problems that are both a municipal planning and emergency management plan issue.
And the rain or it's actually, yeah, it's there.
Again,
So I'm sorry, it's better sent out a contract, I can look at it. The A and R's holding their meeting, did you guys see?
yeah,
Okay, so that's great. You know.
yeah. Here, you said this. I heard you the resources that you were already signed up for. Yes, TV, mailings, and shoot again. And you've got,
Could you send me that?
it's different. Excellent, yeah, here it is. Yeah, I see. It's over there.
Did you find it after?
Yeah. I need to do the same. Everyone there. Well, and I developed a municipal climate change vulnerability index.
I think it's a plan.
Yeah, climate action, yeah, more government, rule.
Well, when they had it all in play, that's the one.
The climate action office that we use to introduce this. Invite all the officers, school districts, to participate in a virtual workshop. Developing tool called the municipal vulnerability index. Participants will have an important role in informing content data. use functions and outputs of the school. So MBI, municipal vulnerability index, is a requirement of the Global Warming Solutions Act and a key recommendation in Vermont's climate action plan. It will be a mapping tool to help identify where communities are most vulnerable to climate change. It is intended for primary use by municipalities to help them plan for and implement projects to address climate change. Pressures that climate change will place on our transportation, electric grid, housing, bridge services, and communications infrastructure. So that's the solution. Cool job.
Yeah. That's it.
Fun.
There's a crowd. Okay, well, that's.
What do you think, Lee?
I think they're trying to catch up to where municipalities should already have gone on their own. And somewhat, I don't know, comfortable is not the word, but I'm not uncomfortable with the trajectory that Grafton has been on as far as being somewhat proactive in addressing these issues. We definitely need to do more, but I think we're a lot farther ahead than 90% of the municipalities in Vermont, and ANR, I guess, is just trying to play catch up here. Not sure that is normally the function of ANR. Thinking back to how what role they played during Irene. They weren't terribly useful. And we got at least one of their silos to agree with our working rivers. Much to the horror of the other silo when they figured out what we were doing. So that time we'd already finished working the rivers.
So I guess my concern is this another silo?
It may be. Although there's benefit to making ANR aware of the other aspects to our existence that need to be addressed relative to climate change in the sorts of decisions that they make. Because they do tend to not look at the economy or other aspects of well-being, housing, whatever. And that's why it exists. They're focused, at least traditionally, on just natural resources as water, and they fall only surface water and not address groundwater before they could. Plants, animals, and only to a limited extent hydrology. Their river engineers do look at hydrology quite a bit. That's the part of the ANR, that particular silo is the one that gives us permission to do work to relieve places that are overly congested with travel. After the flood.
For the purpose of this, I would like to attend this, probably have to keep my Zoom on mute, but. You know what I mean? I might blurt something out, but and then I'm here. My concern, I guess, is how it affects Barely it's here. Concern is another controlling factor. On, how we live our lives.
Um, I could add a little bit to. Fill out what I meant about water quality. Traditionally, ANR has just been concerned with surface water. Rivers, brooks, ponds, lakes. And have not paid as much attention to groundwater aquifers as I think they should have. When it comes to being critical to our actual existence, purity of groundwater is more important than purity of surface water. And that has not been a big focus of theirs. Past. They developed a water well program. And, you know, mapping that sort of thing, but to have worked on trying to keep the aquifer clean. Other than the septic regulations. Not so much. PFAS is really, I think. I've taken them by the ears.
So now they are saying, they want to get involved with, transportation, electric grid. And fossil fuel insurer, all that, so when we identify a climate. Index, do we have to like now start counting homes that they're still on fossil fuels? What their transportation, it's already in our town plan. Yeah, a lot of these things. Far as the.
You take away electric power. Take away communications. Take away transportation. Our society goes into a dizzy. Particularly if you take away electric. And I worry all the time about what happens with a major regional ice storm. I vaguely remember what happened in northern New York.
Or southern New Hampshire, just maybe not pulling it down.
But up there, they had major heating lines coming out of Quebec that were knocked down. And it was a month or more before they got them repaired, and anybody that was directly fed up there was really out of luck, and water systems straight up. Heating systems don't work. Communication systems eventually don't work. People really go into panic.
Did you ever look at shorting the grid? Shorting the grid, yeah. Last thing is
Per se,
and yeah, it's a super book and it's about Vermont's grid.
ah,
And you know, it starts off. Oh, I got the date, but it's 67 years ago, there was a January in the cold, extreme cold. And she goes, and she's you know, utilities engineer, so she really knows her stuff. I mean, we were this close when like catastrophic breakdown, our grid system because of the cold and of course, what's been happening over years is everything's just in time. Delivery for power. Yeah, no, when you add solar and wind, it's higher than this, but it's more and more critical. It's really a very
it means the distributed generation
exactly
is much more important.
Yeah, Meredith Angle, shorting the grid. So, recommend that everybody. Meredith Angle. And you know, really, well, the state has a, you know, a contradiction, where you get something like S5. And then you've got the global wind solution back. How are you gonna meet your needs? narrow. Complain with stuff. That looks like an important meeting, just to know what these people are thinking and what's trying to go, what's pushing them all of a sudden.
Right.
And when is that one? Are you gonna send that around again there?
Yeah,
Okay.
Eric, you sent it to everyone though.
I may, I'm just.
No, I just,
Oh, it is, Thursday,
this week,
14, yeah,
If you don't mind, it could.
it's 12 to 2, that's right, I can't make that one either.
12 to
But I
2.
wanna hopefully see
this
this.
Thursday. 15.
Yeah, let me forward this to you guys,
Thank
right now.
Yeah, that's gonna be something. Would that be able to be viewed afterwards?
What afterwards?
The meeting, and that's a bad time for me too.
Sometimes when you know it's good, is that they just have the slides, or, whatever, the deck.
Yeah,
And though it's not as anywhere as satisfying, hearing the explanation, it still gets you 50%.
okay.
My,
Okay,
I'll get this up to you guys.
yeah, no,
You're gonna try to make it? No. Yeah. You know, 12 to 2, they're holding it for their convenience, but, not for our. Convenience, as usual.
okay, they can available, then,
I'll be good. So, any more on that? I'll just send that to you folks and, like I said, I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. The only reason I put it in there.
that's just not gonna be some subdivision. Any problem, too?
I don't know much about it other than. Been invited to meetings among here, I mean, team.
Yeah.
One of the varsity. Okay, any other finished business, other than our minutes, May 9th? These minutes, what are you gonna take care of?
Yeah, so what unless, I mean, honestly, what I would like to suggest is that I'm gonna have those minutes as a part of these minutes, or do you want them separate? I mean, I mean, I don't know how I would do it separate really, but.
We discussed the highlights of what we talked about.
It's fine, you know what, then, what I gotta find then is I'd like to track, all right, let me see, we'll figure something out.
I think we recorded this, and use a little of it.
Okay, I didn't go back, I thought,
Yeah.
I didn't realize somebody, I have to go look, I didn't realize somebody wasn't covering it, because I knew I wasn't at all around, and so.
If you have time to just kind of, again, it was mostly discussion, we had nothing.
We dropped them out here.
No, I just gotta, I mean, I'll ask, Morgan how to go to the recording of this and of that meeting, and see. Okay. You got it.
Again, it can be, very, short minutes. The topics discussed.
Yep.
Is there anything?
I think they should be two separate minutes, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah. So do the recordings after the minutes?
6 months from now, we'll be able to find it.
And be able to find paper and maybe find both.
I looked at that list, and it's amazing.
Official minutes of the meeting get dumped onto the town's server,
Yeah,
the websites and. Official record.
written, yeah.
Not super organized. Okay. That's fine.
The only thing we talked about last year was the Oaks and drip dispersal installation. That you found.
I've forgotten the name of the company.
I wrote down Oaks and,
Yeah.
yeah,
OEPSON.
yeah. So I think we're throwing around information, it's a matter of the finally just like what we got, they all fits, and a magnet points it on, says here it is. And getting that information. Wow.
Nothing matter.
Maybe Elon Musk would come up with an idea. I think we covered everything.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to hear back from Peter Mazurchak from Stone. See if I'll send it again. Excuse me, I sent it from the draft and study committee, draft and report study committee, which is how I spoke with him first 2 years ago. So he could have recognized that. And just see what they have to offer. He said, gee, we've got some experience in that, and we would like to talk to you about it. At least we've got them. There's an information going to select board, which we can't make a decision, it has to go to select board. So as far as the meeting for that, and for the end of the summer. Should I let Joe know now that we want to hold something and
Yeah.
at the same time, and then
Well, one of their meetings in August.
one of the meetings in August. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming by then you had a chance to. Give it the hand. So maybe. If we had, maybe once a month. So maybe late August, we want this, we right here.
Yeah. Well, I send out these emails and I just want to kind of follow up on it. I just hope that they return my email and the guy can help you. So hopefully we can make that VLCT. And that VLCT is sponsoring that, right? It was on this. Yeah. Okay, any public comment? No. Next meeting is July 11th. The week after the 4th. Tuesday. That's good for everyone.
Sounds good.
Anyone want to add anything for next agenda? The wastewater?
Oh, we're trying to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Have to move, so. Next step and then.
So their focus right now, we want to pursue anything else at this point?
I think that ought to be a first.
Yeah. And then see what this, do we want to do a follow up on the climate change vulnerability index meeting. We'll follow up on that, just we worked it out.
So when you ask this, like, for a meeting later in the summer, can you ask them what, you know, they are spending the 3K, and maybe if it can be an aquifer.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if they're already set in motion, it's probably.
Yeah.
Good point, get some input on it.
you know, if you're up for it. Maybe just give Seth a call. Here's the thought about what you can do with that,
Well, Seth, Joe's still chair, right?
Yeah, and I just, you know, because Seth is the chair here before you.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So, you
I know.
You've already got it, it's not to get around those, it's just to say, hey.
yeah.
And, you know, Seth and write it out with the select board, you know, or, you know, call it like that.
What was giving you that?
But I think, you know, if you can make that contact.
Yeah. I know. You did mention something in the news, the June news that just came out,
You know,
draft news. There's an article there that he asked for, he asked for a summary of how the money's been spent with time so far.
Yeah, what we call them. I mean, that rings about the conversation.
Yeah. So we'll work on that. Yeah, okay, meeting adjourned. Okay. Adjourned. Okay. Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sir. Technical support.
Yeah.
I don't know how you turn that thing on. You know,
All right, Ron, good to see you. Night.
Yep.